Yesterday I worked out for the first time in a while. I mean, I was packing it on and I did nothing to change this. Uh, so I got up, walked my dogs, walked my mom's dog, had a good healthy breakfast of oatmeal, two bananas, and those chia seeds. Good start to the day. I had like four glasses of water, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go to the gym. So I got on my bike because I can't drive because people scare the hell out of me, and I know that I have a bad temper and I don't trust myself behind tons of steel that's self-propelled. So I got on my bike and I went to the gym. Ironically enough, I did 30 minutes on the stationary bike. No problems. I was gonna go for an hour, but my bike had I'm not sure if it was a flat, but it was going to. It looked like it was becoming a flat because it just kept getting softer and softer. But when I got out of the gym, it was the same firmness as when I left. So maybe I just didn't fill up the tire. Well, I hadn't filled up the tire in a while. I just needed to fill it up. So I got home, and I needed to pee because I drank more water than I got rid of by sweat. So I had to pee. And so instead of locking my bike, I figured, okay, I'm just going to put it in front of my mom's car and I'll get it, before it gets dark. So I went inside, peed, and I did some One Piece reviews, chapter reviews. And yeah, I forgot about it. So a few hours later, my parents tell me, we're going to go and we're going to, get our glasses and do some shopping. Okay, cool. Also, they picked me up this fan, which we've been getting 98 degree temperature on average, so fingers crossed that I can sleep finally, because I'm tired of waking up covered in sweat. And so they left, and this was like at 4, and then they came back, and they're like, hey. Well, I went outside to look at them, they were giving my food, and then my dad's like, where's your bike? And I'm like, it's right over there where the mom's car was. And they took my mom's car, so they would have seen it. Because it would have been right in front as they were backing out. And my mom's like, it's not there. Is it inside? And I looked inside because I thought maybe I did bring it inside and I forgot. And it wasn't there. I'm like, oh, no, it's not in here. And my mom's like, you need to call the cops. And so I'm like, no, I don't think so. Cops aren't bad, I know that, but I have dogs, so the less cops around my house, the better. So I thought, okay, you know what? My dad's constantly telling me, lock your bike, but I never do because I'm. It's conditioning, okay? I don't lock the bike because I never lock the bike and nothing ever happens to my bike. So I looked on the side of the house and the rest of the front yard, and it wasn't there. And so my mom tells me again, you need to call the cops. And so I called the cops. And of course, the cops, I talked to them and they're like, yeah, we'll send somebody. And of course, they sent somebody over while I was eating and keeping my mom's dog away from my food. So I went and I talked to him. He was a nice guy. He filled out my information and told me that if I'm lucky, what's going to happen is they'll find like a cache or a group of ill-gotten gains, and that's the best chance I'm gonna have in getting my bike back. Okay, fine. So then he leaves. No, well, while he's talking to my dad, talking to us, my dad comes out. He's like, Did you tell him about the neighbors? Neighbors? Question mark. Pause. So I have these neighbors, a few houses down. They're idiots. They're fixing houses on their property, which is illegal. This area is not zoned for businesses, and they constantly have their dogs out, and so my dogs get into fights with their dogs, and I've called the police on them for I've been bitten by their dogs, and they go through a lot of dogs. The one that bit me was a Rottweiler. And they've had pit bulls and other dogs. Like, the dogs get out, or I don't know, they return them. And so, at one point, his dogs were out, and he had to come out, and the whole family, they had to come out. And I wasn't gonna think anything of it because okay, they got the dogs before the dogs got into a fight with my dog. So okay, I was gonna let it go. And then the guy tells me he's a chubby guy with dreadlocks. He says, "You know what? I've told you before. Don't come by my house anymore." So I'm like, And I called the police. I told them. The police talked to them. They haven't given me problems since. And this was last year. And my dad comes out and he tells them, "Did you tell them about these neighbors?" And my dad started telling them what was going on. And I had to tell the police. I'm like, okay, this is why he told you about them. But it's been a while since they've done anything. They're still doing, automobile work in their house and the house next door. But they haven't caused me any problems. And what's weird though is I was across the street every time when they would tell me, don't walk by our house anymore. But anyways, so the guy, he's like, I'll let you know if something happens. And he gave me my case number and everything. And so, okay, I came back inside. I was hungry because talking to cops makes me nervous. I don't know why. Anybody holding a gun makes me nervous. I don't like guns. I don't see a point to them. And so I'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to eat now. My floor was covered in Coca-Cola. But my burger was still there, which is lucky high point of the day because just with the way everything else went. So I clean it up, I drink, and then my mom tells me, she's like, "You know what? Your dad and me, while we were leaving, we saw these two teenagers. One was really, really tall. Maybe he looked like a basketball player. He had that kind of tone, that kind of body. And the other was a teenage girl. And they kept pacing around back and forth. And even your dad's like, have you ever seen them before? We've never seen them before." I'm like, okay. And he's like, "I bet you they were, I wonder if they're the ones who did it." And I'm like, it would have been nice to know while I was talking to the police officer, but okay. And so what's funny about there's a few things that are really funny about this. One, I had a terrible bike. The brakes broke real quick. The gears would always get stuck, stuff like that. I bought it new. But the biggest problem was I could never get the tires for it. It was like a 27 something inch tire tubes, and I could never get them. I would go like 2 to 3 weeks without using the bike because I could never find the tubes. And I even tried Amazon and some other places. I even went to a bike shop and like, yeah, these tires, they're fairly new, so you don't see them very often. So, and I hated that bike. And the only tire tubes that I could occasionally get were these really cheap ones at Walmart. And I say cheap because even though they were $7 a pop, which to me is not cheap, you would ride for like an hour and they would go flat. And it's not my fault they would go flat. What it was is, okay, this is the outside of the, this is the outside of the tire tube. And this is the inside. This is not sexual. I know that's what it looks like, but it's not. So it would pop or it would go flat. On the outside was fine, but on the inside there was always a seam that would just rip. I don't know why, but it would just rip, and it's constantly ripping. And again, they would only last an hour, so I would hardly use that bike. And this is how I got into the habit of never locking my bike, because nobody ever took this crappy bike. And since nobody ever took it, I never locked it. And plus, that's actually probably the worst two things. I know I keep getting off track, but the worst two things about this whole experience is, one, I'm at $150. I know a lot of people, when they're stolen from or burglarized, they're thinking, I feel so violated, I don't feel safe, I'm angry at the world. They go through like emotions and fear, and really all I'm getting out of this is agitation, because I'm at $150, and now every time my dad says don't forget to lock your bike, I can't say anything, because even though it's a safe neighborhood and we've never had any problems up to now, my bike was stolen. Okay, so weird thing. The other weird thing is my parents were fighting amongst themselves. You should have took the bike in. Well, you should have said something, and they would stop it, and then everyone said, well, it started. And I'm like, I'm the one without a bike. So you guys are fighting, which is nice, but I'm the one without a bike. So yeah, that was my Saturday, my one day off for 4 or 5 more days, and it went by fast, and it was fun at the start. So what about you guys? Have you ever been stolen from? Had any items stolen? Stuff like that? Burglarized? How did you deal with it? Did the cops help? Uh, yeah. So this was LJH7ER, where the last two letters are always typos. And oh, I have some One Piece reviews from yesterday, so if you want to check those out, get some feedback on those. Yeah, till whenever I can put up a video, that's when I'll put up a video.